The desert stretched endlessly, a sea of golden sands under a sun that seemed too bright for any living thing. Small gusts of wind carried grains across the surface, sculpting ridges that shifted every hour. Like the world itself was alive and moving. Most travelers avoided this place, speaking of it as a dead wasteland, a graveyard of forgotten machines. But for Jara Ven, the deep desert was a playground of possibilities. Jara was not like other explorers. She was a mechanic, trained to see potential where others only saw rust and decay. She walked among ruins and broken ships with a careful eye, scanning every piece of metal, every panel, every wire. Her hands were small but strong, her mind sharp and patient. While others saw destruction, she saw stories waiting to be told. On this particular day, the sun had barely risen when Jara spotted something unusual. A line of shadows across the dunes caught her attention. She tilted her head, squinting. At first, she thought it was a ridge of rock. But as she drew closer, the shape became impossible to ignore. Metal. Huge, angular metal, glinting in the sun. By the time she reached it, Jara was breathless not from the climb, but from awe. Half buried in sand, stretching hundreds of feet long, was what appeared to be an enormous war machine. Its design was unlike anything she had seen in archives or simulations. Smooth surfaces curved into sharp angles, tubes and panels twisted together like a mechanical organism. Even the sand seemed to avoid it, forming small drifts along its edges but never covering it completely. Jara circled it, her fingers brushing over the cold metal. Despite the years, the machine was remarkably intact. She noticed strange markings on its surface, symbols she did not recognize, etched deep into the armor. They were not just signs of ownership or manufacture, they seemed like language, a message waiting for someone to read it. 117 years, Jara whispered to herself. The old salvager who had once traded with her had mentioned stories of machines abandoned after failed wars. This must be one of them. Her pulse quickened. If she could power it, if she could understand even part of it, it might reveal secrets humans had never seen. She set down her tools and began a careful inspection. The desert heat was intense, but Jara hardly noticed. Her hands moved quickly, checking joints, scanning panels, looking for any sign of life. The machine had none. Its engines were silent, its lights dark. Yet, there was a strange feeling, almost like it was watching her, waiting. Hours passed as she studied it. Pieces of sand and corrosion fell away under her touch, revealing more of the alien design. Tubes and wires interlaced in patterns that seemed chaotic, but had an underlying order. Jara's mind worked fast, matching what she saw with her knowledge of mechanics and engineering. Some of the components were beyond human design, she realized. Yet others, simple gears, pistons, valves were familiar. It was as if someone had tried to teach humans something they might one day understand. Jara paused, wiping sweat from her brow. She had come prepared. Her backpack was full of tools, sensors, and a portable power source. Most explorers would have taken a few samples and left, but Jara's curiosity would not let her go. She had always been the one to dig deeper, to touch what others feared. As she worked, she heard distant voices, faint but unmistakable. She froze. The desert was supposed to be empty. Slowly, she moved toward a ridge and peered over. A group of alien scavengers approached, their sleek vehicles kicking up clouds of dust. Jara recognized them from her previous encounters, trade scavengers who often claimed ancient machines for themselves. They were well armed, and their intentions were rarely friendly. Jara's heart pounded. But she did not panic. She had prepared for this. Slowly, she backed away from the machine, moving behind a dune to remain hidden. The scavengers stopped near the edge of the buried machine, scanning the area. "Nothing yet," one of them said in a harsh tone. "They'll find it eventually," another replied. "But it's too dangerous to touch. Old war machines have traps." Jara listened carefully. Traps were one thing, but she knew humans could handle things differently than aliens. Where others relied on brute force or fear, humans had ingenuity, patience, and adaptability. If she was careful, she could unlock its secrets in ways they could not. As the scavengers drove away, Jara exhaled slowly. She knew she had a limited window. She returned to the machine, her mind racing with ideas. She examined a large panel at the front, trying to determine how to access the core systems. The panel was heavy, rusted shut. But her small but strong fingers worked at the edges. With a final pull, it opened with a groan, revealing layers of wiring and strange crystalline components that seemed to hum faintly. Jara knelt before it, running her hands over the intricate systems. The technology was alien, yes, but she recognized some patterns. Power conduits, stabilizers, energy storage. It was not just a machine, it was a puzzle, designed to be activated by a mind capable of understanding both mechanics and logic. For the first time, she saw a small control interface, partially covered in dust and corrosion. It was unlike any human console. A series of geometric shapes lit faintly when her fingers brushed them. Jara's eyes widened. It responded to touch. Perhaps it had been waiting for someone to awaken it all along. She reached for her portable scanner, linking it carefully to the interface. Data began to flow, a stream of information that seemed to pulse with life. There were diagrams, schematics, and sequences languages she did not fully understand. But a few lines, simple yet profound, hinted at functionality. It was a machine built for purpose, not destruction alone, and it was clear the original builders had anticipated the possibility of human interaction. The sun began to dip toward the horizon, casting long shadows across the desert. Jara worked quickly, documenting everything she saw. The more she learned, the more she understood the machine's potential. Its engines could power vast areas. Its systems could repair and adapt to environments humans had never dreamed of. Yet the core remained dormant. She would need more than patience. She would need courage. Night fell, and the desert became colder than she expected. Stars shone above, reflected faintly on the machine's metal surfaces. Jara set up a small camp nearby, using a shielded lamp to continue her work. She studied the alien writing, trying to decipher the logic behind the sequences. Hours passed, and her mind raced with possibilities. Could she actually power it on? Could she control it? The idea was terrifying and exhilarating. As she drifted to sleep that night, her mind could not rest. She dreamed of the machine rising from the sands, gears whirring, lights flashing, revealing knowledge humans had long forgotten. She saw herself at the controls, not as a conqueror but as a discoverer, a bridge between past and future. The dream was vivid, almost prophetic. Morning came with a cool wind that swept across the dunes. Jara was awake before the sun, energized and determined. Today, she told herself, she would begin the real work. She started by carefully cleaning the interface and mapping out connections. Every wire, every panel, every component was a clue. Hours turned into a day. Her hands ached, but her mind never tired. Slowly, carefully, she began to re-establish the power circuits. Sparks flew once, twice, but she was ready. She adjusted the flow, rerouted the energy, and watched as the machine's faint hum began to grow louder. The desert was still, as if holding its breath. At last, a soft light glowed from within the control interface. Jara stepped back, heart racing. The machine had responded. It was not fully awake. Not yet. But it was alive. She smiled, knowing that the first step had been taken. For 117 years, it had waited. And now, it had chosen her. The desert was quiet, but Jara felt a new energy in the air. A sense that history itself was stirring. She did not yet know the dangers ahead, the puzzles that would challenge her, or the secrets the machine held, but she knew one thing with certainty. Humans had been underestimated, and she was about to show the universe what one determined human mechanic could do. And somewhere deep within the dormant war machine, a response formed, soft, almost imperceptible, but it was enough to signal that the adventure had begun. The desert morning was quiet, almost too quiet. The sun rose slowly, casting a warm golden light over the sand dunes. Jara Ven sat cross-legged near the half-buried war machine, her hands carefully tracing over its smooth, alien surfaces. The soft hum from yesterday had grown stronger during the night, as if the machine itself had been stirring in the darkness. Jara knew she had taken the first step, but she also understood that waking a machine abandoned for 117 years would not be simple. The hum was a start, a pulse of life. But the real work lay ahead. She had to reconnect the internal systems, unlock its energy core, and figure out the alien interface. All of this required not just skill, but patience, imagination, and intuition. Humans had something that no alien AI or automated system could replicate: the ability to think creatively, to see connections where none seemed obvious. She opened her portable scanner and connected it to the control interface. Streams of alien data flowed onto the screen, lines of light and symbols that flickered too fast for the naked eye. Some were electrical schematics, others seemed like language, and a few looked almost like music, a rhythm hidden in the pattern of the circuits. Jara's eyes widened. The machine was not just metal, it was alive in a sense. Her first task was understanding the energy flow. The machine had multiple power sources, each dormant for decades. If she connected them incorrectly, the system could overload, or worse, shut down completely. She carefully mapped the circuits, making notes in her datapad. One wrong move could waste weeks of effort. Hours passed as she worked, hands steady despite the rising sun. Jara tested one section at a time. Sparks flickered when she connected the first energy node, and a soft vibration ran through the metal frame. The machine responded, but not fully. She realized the designers had built-in security protocols, traps to prevent anyone untrained from activating it. "It's testing me," Jara whispered, a smile on her face. "Good. I like a challenge." As the day moved on, the desert heat became intense, but Jara barely noticed. She focused entirely on the alien systems, feeling a thrill she had not experienced in years. She was not just repairing a machine, she was communicating across time and species. She adjusted one conduit, rerouted a power line, and a series of small lights blinked along the machine's frame. A sound like distant wind chimes echoed faintly from within. But then came the first major obstacle. A large panel on the side of the machine refused to open. Jara had tried every angle, every tool, but it would not budge. It was clear the mechanism was not broken, it was locked, waiting for someone who could understand the sequence. She studied the symbols etched into the panel, comparing them to the interface codes she had seen. Slowly, patterns emerged. It was a puzzle. A sequence of inputs and gestures that required careful timing. Jara smiled. Humans were problem solvers. She tested her ideas, one by one. The panel responded to a series of gentle taps and twists, almost like a language of movement. Her heart raced as it finally clicked open, revealing a hidden compartment. Inside was a crystalline core, faintly glowing with residual energy. The core seemed delicate, but alive. It pulsed slowly, like a heartbeat, as if it had been waiting for someone to touch it. "Got you," Jara said softly, almost in awe. She studied the core, taking care not to disturb its natural rhythm. The scanner displayed readings she could not fully understand, but she noted patterns that might allow her to connect it to the main power system. The desert around her was silent, but Jara felt a watching presence. Not from humans, not from animals, but from the machine itself. Every vibration, every flicker of light, seemed like a message. It was not hostile, it was cautious, curious, assessing her. And Jara understood that this was the real test. The machine would only respond fully to someone it trusted, someone who showed understanding, patience, and respect. Night fell quickly, and the desert cooled. Stars lit the sky in brilliant patterns, reflected faintly on the metal of the half-buried machine. Jara set up her small lamp and continued her work, connecting the crystalline core to the main energy lines. Sparks flew briefly, then settled. A low hum rose from the machine, deeper and more confident than before. Suddenly, the interface lit up with a soft blue glow. Symbols she could not read shifted and changed as if alive. For a moment, she hesitated. She could not understand it, not fully, but she could feel it. The patterns were like a language, not of words but of intent and logic. Jara placed her hands on the interface and moved slowly, mimicking the shapes she saw in the glowing lines. The response was immediate. The lights grew brighter, the hum louder, and the vibration ran through the sand beneath her feet. The machine was acknowledging her. It had tested her patience, her understanding, and now it had recognized her as someone capable of continuing its work. But the challenge was far from over. As she explored the system further, Jara discovered that some modules were biomechanical wires intertwined with organic tissue, parts that seemed to grow rather than be manufactured. She had never seen anything like it. It was a hybrid of biology and technology, a design that suggested its creators had achieved something humans had only dreamed of. Connecting these modules was delicate work. Too much energy, too sudden a movement, and the system could fail. Jara took a deep breath. Relying on her instincts, she aligned the conduits carefully, adjusted the energy flow, and watched as the modules began to pulse in sync with the rest of the machine. The hum became a rhythm, almost like a song. Hours blurred as Jara worked through the night. She slept only briefly, her mind racing with possibilities. She imagined the machine walking across the desert, lifting dunes, revealing hidden secrets. She thought about what humans could learn from it. Technology, history, knowledge of distant worlds, and perhaps lessons about cooperation and creativity that no AI could teach. By the second day, the machine systems were partially active. Panels slid open on their own, lights blinked in a carefully choreographed pattern, and the hum had grown into a steady, resonant tone. Jara realized she had done something extraordinary. She had awakened something that had not moved in over a century, something that could have been destroyed by time, but instead responded to her care and understanding. But even as excitement filled her, Jara noticed a new challenge. Some systems were locked behind what appeared to be simulations, virtual tests that the machine presented to assess her abilities. The simulations were strange. Holographic puzzles, sequences of alien logic, and challenges that tested not just knowledge, but adaptability and quick thinking. Jara laughed softly. "You really think you can test me, huh?" she said. She approached the first simulation and studied it. The patterns shifted, showing multiple pathways and solutions. Most humans would have been overwhelmed, but Jara thrived on challenges. She recognized small clues that suggested the machine was teaching her something. A rhythm here, a symmetry there, a logical step, hidden in plain sight. After hours of trial and error, she solved the first simulation. Lights blinked in acknowledgement. The machine vibrated slightly, a pulse of approval. The second simulation appeared, more complex than the first. She did not hesitate. Piece by piece, step by step, she worked through it. The machine was not just testing her, it was communicating, shaping her understanding of its systems and, perhaps, preparing her to work with it fully. By the end of the second day, Jara was exhausted but exhilarated. She sat against the warm metal of the machine, feeling its hum vibrate through her chest. She realized something profound. This was not just about mechanics or engineering. It was about connection, about trust, about human intuition bridging the gap between species and centuries. The desert night returned, cool and still. Stars sparkled above, reflecting in the machine's metallic surfaces. Jara closed her eyes for a moment, feeling the rhythm of the machine, feeling the pulse of life within it. She had passed the first tests, awakened its systems, and even begun to understand its logic. But she knew the greatest challenge was still ahead. To fully power it, to unlock the core, and to prove that a single human mind could navigate systems that had been designed for civilizations far more advanced than hers. A soft vibration ran through the sand, gentle but insistent. The machine seemed to acknowledge her progress, almost as if it were speaking without words. Jara smiled. She felt a surge of pride, but also humility. She was not just a mechanic, she was a partner in awakening something far greater than herself. The journey ahead would be long, dangerous, and full of puzzles. But Jara was ready. Humans had a gift: curiosity, courage, and the ability to see what others could not. And as she lay under the stars, listening to the steady hum of the half-awake machine, she knew that she and this ancient marvel had only just begun their journey together. For 117 years, it had waited in silence, and now, at last, it had found a human capable of understanding it. The morning sun rose slowly over the desert, painting the dunes in shades of gold and amber. A gentle wind carried grains of sand across the vast landscape, yet the half-buried machine remained still, silent, but not lifeless. Its soft hum, which Jara Ven had first noticed 2 days ago, had grown deeper, resonating through the sand and vibrating faintly beneath her feet. Jara sat cross-legged near the interface, her hands resting lightly on the cool metal. She had spent days awakening the machine's systems, deciphering alien schematics, and solving its intricate puzzles. And now, she was ready for the greatest challenge yet, fully powering it on. She examined the crystalline core she had discovered, now fully connected to the main energy conduits. The readings were stable but complex. Jara understood enough to know that activating the core required precision. One wrong move could overload the system, or, if she succeeded, it could transform the dormant giant into a living, thinking entity. Her fingers hovered over the interface. The machine had tested her patience, her intelligence, and her ability to think creatively. She felt a strange connection forming between them, almost like communication without words. She whispered softly, "Ready when you are." Carefully, she began the sequence. Lights blinked along the machine's body, a dance of colors shifting in patterns she could not fully interpret. The crystalline core pulsed in response, slowly at first, then with increasing intensity. A soft vibration ran through the sand, almost like a heartbeat, and Jara's pulse quickened in tandem. Suddenly, a holographic display appeared above the interface. It was a projection of complex diagrams, some moving, some still. Jara studied it, recognizing patterns similar to the simulations she had solved days before. The machine was not resisting her, it was inviting her to engage, to prove that she could manage its systems. Her first task was the energy matrix. A network of conduits ran from the crystalline core to multiple parts of the machine, some mechanical, some biomechanical. She carefully adjusted each connection, balancing power flow, rerouting energy through alternate circuits when nodes showed instability. Sparks flickered occasionally, but the system compensated automatically. It was responding to her touch, learning from her decisions. Hours passed, and the desert grew hotter. Sweat ran down her brow, but Jara did not stop. She was focused entirely on the machine, feeling the rhythm of its energy like a song she could almost hear. She realized that this giant was not just a tool or a weapon, it was a being designed to think, adapt, and learn, and it had recognized something in her that no AI or alien could: human ingenuity. By late afternoon, the energy matrix was stable, but new challenges appeared. Sections of the machine that were biomechanical began to move slightly, testing her. Small limbs or appendages shifted, panels adjusted, and lights blinked in sequences that seemed almost playful. It was as if the machine was alive, responding to her presence. Jara laughed softly. "You really are something, aren't you?" she said. "I think we're going to get along just fine." Her next task was the core intelligence system. Unlike mechanical parts, this system was not just circuits and energy. It was a network of memory and logic, designed to process information and make decisions. Jara had seen fragments of it in the holographic displays, but activating it required precision and understanding. She studied the alien interface carefully. Symbols shifted, forming sequences she had not noticed before. Slowly, carefully, she traced her fingers along the shapes, entering commands that felt like a conversation. To her amazement, the system responded immediately. Data flowed across the display like rivers of light, showing maps of distant worlds, star systems, and diagrams of civilizations long vanished. Jara's heart raced. The machine was revealing knowledge humans had never seen, all because she had shown the patience, creativity, and courage to awaken it. But there was still one final challenge: the consciousness link. The machine pulsed stronger, almost like it was asking, testing, demanding that she prove herself worthy. Jara realized this was not just a technical challenge, it was a mental and emotional one. She had to demonstrate empathy, understanding, and adaptability. Humans had a unique ability to connect with systems in ways aliens or AI could not. She had to show that she was not merely a controller, but a partner. Jara closed her eyes for a moment and took a deep breath. She let her hands rest on the interface, feeling the pulse of energy beneath her fingers. Slowly, she began to synchronize her movements with the machine's rhythm. Lights pulsed in harmony with her gestures, circuits adjusted, and the hum became a steady, melodic vibration. It worked. The machine recognized her intent. Panels slid open, revealing more of its internal structure, and a series of holographic symbols formed what could only be described as a greeting. Jara could not read the language, but she understood the meaning: acknowledgement, trust, and readiness. A sudden surge of energy coursed through the system. The crystalline core glowed brightly, and the machine's body trembled as if awakening from a century-long slumber. Dust and sand cascaded from its surface as it began to rise slowly. Jara stepped back, eyes wide in awe. The war machine stood upright, revealing its full height for the first time in 117 years. Its design was elegant yet intimidating, a perfect blend of strength, intelligence, and adaptability. Lights traced patterns across its frame, and small appendages adjusted in perfect synchronization. It was alive not in the way humans or animals were alive, but as a thinking, sensing entity capable of understanding its surroundings. Jara felt a surge of pride and humility. She had done what no other human or alien could. She had awakened a being that had waited over a century for someone capable of understanding it. But the machine was not content with simply being powered on. It began to communicate, not with words, but through patterns, vibrations, and energy pulses. Jara realized she could respond by moving her hands, tracing symbols on the interface, and adjusting circuits. It was a new language, one that relied on intuition, creativity, and trust. Hours passed as Jara and the machine communicated, forming a bond stronger than any mere mechanical connection. The desert seemed to fade away, leaving only the two of them in a shared space of energy, light, and understanding. Suddenly, the machine projected a series of images: alien cities, star maps, advanced technology, and battles long past. Jara studied them carefully. She realized the machine held knowledge humans could use, not to conquer, but to explore, protect, and learn. Its creators had intended it for war, but in her hands, it could become a force for discovery and understanding. The desert night returned, cool and quiet. Stars sparkled above, mirrored in the machine's reflective surfaces. Jara sat beside it, exhausted but exhilarated. She had done the impossible. She had awakened a machine thought lost to history, a relic of a long-forgotten civilization. And in the process, she had proven something more. Humans were not just survivors or workers, they were creators, problem-solvers, and connectors of worlds. As she drifted to sleep beside the hum of the fully awakened machine, Jara knew the journey was far from over. This was only the beginning. The machine held secrets, challenges, and knowledge that would take years to understand. But she felt ready. Together, they could explore the desert, the stars, and the mysteries of the universe itself. For 117 years, the machine had waited silently beneath the sands. Now, it stood alive, awake, and aware, and at its side was a single human mechanic, curious, courageous, and capable of unlocking the impossible. The desert wind whispered across the dunes, carrying a promise of adventure. And as the first light of dawn touched the machine's gleaming surface, Jara smiled, knowing that human ingenuity had sparked life into a giant that had slept for more than a century. The desert was quiet, but not empty. The war machine, now fully awake, stood tall against the rising sun, its metallic surface gleaming in shades of gold and silver. Jara Ven sat near its base, her fingers brushing lightly against the cold metal, feeling the pulse of energy running through it. The hum of the machine was steady, like a heartbeat, and she could sense that it was aware of her presence. For 3 days, Jara had worked tirelessly to awaken the giant, decipher its systems, and form a bond with its intelligence. Now, she faced a new challenge. What to do next? This machine was unlike anything humans or aliens had ever encountered. It was powerful, intelligent, and capable of incredible feats. Yet, Jara knew that its true potential could only be realized if used wisely. She stood and surveyed the desert around her. The dunes stretched endlessly, hiding remnants of ancient civilizations, forgotten cities, and lost technology. The machine's sensors could detect these, uncovering treasures buried beneath centuries of sand. But more than treasure, it could reveal knowledge maps, blueprints, and histories lost to time. "All right," Jara said softly. The machine responded immediately, projecting a series of holographic maps and images above its interface. Cities long abandoned, star systems never visited by humans, and technologies beyond comprehension appeared before her eyes. Jara's mind raced. Each image was a piece of history, a puzzle of the universe waiting to be understood. But as she studied the projections, a thought struck her. Knowledge alone was not enough. Humans had to apply it wisely, to protect and create, not destroy. She realized that the machine was not just a tool, it was a partner, capable of acting alongside humans to explore, repair, and safeguard the universe. Jara began planning their first mission. The desert around them was just the beginning. There were forgotten cities buried beneath the sands, abandoned ships scattered across distant planets, and civilizations that had vanished without a trace. The machine could help humans recover these wonders, preserving history and learning from the past. But there was one more challenge. Though the machine was awake and aware, it still needed guidance. Its intelligence was vast, but it had not experienced human creativity or decision-making. Jara realized that her role was not just to command, but to teach and collaborate. The first test came sooner than expected. A sudden tremor ran through the desert, shaking sand from the dunes and startling Jara. She looked up to see a distant cloud of dust, an alien scavenger team returning, seeking the very machine she had awakened. Their ships were fast, sleek, and heavily armed, designed for speed and capture rather than battle. Jara's heart raced. But she did not panic. The machine beside her vibrated in recognition of the threat. It was not programmed to fear, but it could sense danger. Together, they would act as one. "Stay back," she whispered. "Let's show them what humans can do." The machine moved with surprising grace, its massive legs lifting it over the dunes. Jara climbed onto a reinforced panel near the interface, using the machine's sensors to guide their actions. The scavenger ships approached, firing warning beams, but the machine did not strike. Instead, it demonstrated its superiority through strategy, blocking their path and projecting energy fields to protect both Jara and itself. The aliens paused, realizing that this was no ordinary machine, and certainly no ordinary human. Jara's calm and precise actions, combined with the machine's strength, created a presence so commanding that the scavengers had no choice but to retreat. Slowly, their ships vanished over the horizon, leaving the desert silent once more. Jara exhaled, her pulse still racing. "That's what I'm talking about," she said with a smile. "We didn't need to fight, you just needed to show them we're not to be underestimated." The encounter reinforced something important. Humans were more than physical beings or problem solvers. They had courage, creativity, and intuition that no machine or alien could replicate. And with the awakened war machine at her side, Jara realized she could extend those human qualities across the universe. Over the following days, Jara and the machine explored the desert. They uncovered lost cities, repaired ancient systems, and mapped regions never charted before. The machine learned from her, adapting to her style of thinking, while Jara learned from it, absorbing knowledge of technology and history far beyond human records. They became partners in discovery, each complementing the other's abilities. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Jara reflected on what they had achieved. She had awakened a machine abandoned for 117 years, survived challenges no one else could, and proven that humans had qualities no technology or alien civilization could match. It was a moment of triumph, not just for her, but for humanity. The machine, sensing her thoughts, projected a series of images, human civilizations, achievements, and the potential for growth. It was as if it was acknowledging the human spark that had brought it to life. Jara felt a surge of pride and responsibility. The universe was vast and full of mysteries, but humans could face them, adapt, and thrive. The next step was clear. They would leave the desert. The world beyond held challenges, knowledge, and opportunities that Jara and the machine could explore together. She climbed onto the interface panel, her hands steady as she activated the movement sequence. The machine rose fully, towering above the dunes, its sensors scanning the horizon. With careful steps, they began their journey. The desert shifted beneath the machine's weight, sand cascading as it moved with surprising agility. Jara marveled at the experience, the sense of freedom, the ability to explore without limits. They were not just traveling, they were charting a new path for humanity, one where ingenuity, courage, and curiosity led the way. Along the journey, Jara discovered small settlements of humans who had adapted to harsh environments. They were wary at first, seeing the enormous machine and a single human alongside it. But Jara's calm presence and the machine's controlled movements quickly earned their trust. She shared knowledge, repaired equipment, and helped the settlements thrive, proving that human creativity and courage could change lives. Word began to spread. Other humans, hearing of the mechanic and the awakened war machine, traveled to learn from Jara, to see how one person could achieve what entire civilizations had not. She became a symbol, not just of skill, but of human potential, showing that determination and intelligence could awaken possibilities long forgotten. As months passed, Jara and the machine explored planets, deserts, forests, and ruins. Each discovery revealed more about the universe's past and the civilizations that had shaped it. They repaired abandoned technology, restored lost knowledge, and inspired humans everywhere to value creativity, collaboration, and courage. One evening, on a distant planet with twin suns, Jara sat atop the machine's interface panel, watching the sky turn shades of pink and orange. The hum of the machine vibrated beneath her, steady and comforting. She reflected on the journey, the risks she had taken, and the incredible bond she had formed. She realized something profound. Humans were not defined by size, strength, or even technology. They were defined by ingenuity, determination, and the ability to connect with the world in ways no one else could. And with that spark, humans could awaken giants, explore the unknown, and leave a legacy that lasted centuries. The machine projected images of distant worlds, star maps, and civilizations long gone. It was offering Jara guidance, knowledge, and understanding. She smiled. Together, they would explore, discover, and protect. Together, they would show the universe the power of the human spirit. And so, Jara Ven, a single human mechanic, and the awakened war machine traveled across deserts, planets, and stars. They were a symbol of human creativity, courage, and perseverance. They demonstrated that even in a vast universe, one human could make a difference, unlocking the potential of ancient technology and proving that humanity was a force to be respected. The deserts they left behind were no longer just graveyards of forgotten machines. They became testaments to human ingenuity, places where courage and curiosity had sparked life into a giant that had slept for 117 years. And the story of Jara and the machine spread, inspiring generations of humans to explore, learn, and create. For Jara, the journey was far from over. The universe was vast, full of mysteries, challenges, and wonders. But she had a partner, a guardian, and a friend in the machine, and together, they would face whatever came next, with human ingenuity leading the way. As the twin suns set on the horizon, casting golden light across the landscape, Jara whispered, "This is only the beginning." The war machine hummed in response. A steady, melodic vibration, echoing the promise of adventure and discovery. The human spark had awakened a giant, and together, they would leave a legacy that would never be forgotten.